You are listening to Good Morning Sunshine, where we authentically share the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beauty all around it, reminding you that perspective reveals miracles.
Morning Sunshines, Callie Carroll here. I got to start off by saying something. This program that I use to record now has a restart option, and I've never had a restart option. I've done live videos for the last 8 years. So I get on and I just go and I just screw things up all the time. And it makes it just easier to know that you're going to screw things up. And you just walk into that knowing that. But now I can press the little restart button and then I do. And then I'm like, what am I even doing? What am I even doing? So I gotta stop with the restart, kind of like in life. I'm gonna stop trying to press the restart button. Just keep moving forward. You know you're gonna screw up. That's not today's conversation at all. We're talking about worry and fear. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction today as to why I'm so good at this. I'm so good at the conversation of worry and fear because I lived in a state of worry and fear for decades, successfully made it through decades. I mean, did I get sick? Did I have side effects? Absolutely, which I'm going to tell you guys about at the end of this conversation. All of the different health risks of worry, which is what we are titling today, right? Is that the best way to move through and find a healthier you is to stop worrying and really to see the connection that worry has to all of the different diseases and ailments that show up in people's lives and how they have control of that if they could just learn to control their worry. But let me just share with you why I'm not perfect in this category. Absolutely not. I don't know, envelop some trust that I had to move through these different things that I'm not just saying them, that I've actually had to go through a lot of the things that we're going to talk about for the next couple weeks or month or whatever that is. First things first, worry versus fear, they are different, although for me, they just seem to be perceived as one and the same because when you worry, you're thinking about things that have not yet happened. And a fear is a response to a perceived threat. But for some reason, those things that hadn't happened, I really felt that they were a perceived threat. So I really tie those together. I don't know if you guys do. Do you guys tie worry and fear? Can you identify a difference between worry and fear? Or do you feel like your worry is fear? And maybe that was more as a child, and I've gotten more into the anxiety stage over the fear stage. But I don't know, just curious. The other thing that I want you to think about before we get started here is what is your current state of worry? How often are you worrying? How much are you allowing a state of worry to control your day? Do you worry on a daily basis about, are you going to get to work on time? Are the kids going to do well at school? What sort of worry are you experiencing on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis? What does that look like for you? And the reason why I want you to start there is because as we go through this conversation over a little bit of time here, I'd like for you to be able to see if you can step out of that and into something new. Let's start off with some stats though, so that you know that you're not alone. And I know that I'm not alone because I just told you that I'm really good at this. I'm really good at worry and anxiety, or at least I used to be. I'm still pretty good at it sometimes. 19.1% of Americans have an actual diagnosed anxiety disorder. It is the most common mental disease that there is. And above and beyond that, 32% of people report feelings of regular worry. Financial worry is probably at the top of that list. And the crazy thing, which we'll kind of talk more about this later on, is about 91% of the things that we worry about are not even possible threats. Like they're not even going to happen. We're worrying, we're spending time and energy putting ourselves into this negative vibrational state to think about something that is, possibly could happen down the road. And 91% of the times it's not going to happen. And even of the remaining 9% where it did occur, there was like 3% of those times was much better. Like, oh, that actually wasn't so bad. So imagine the time that we spend in this state, this consuming state, and the things aren't even going to happen, yet we let them take over our lives. Let me share with you how it's taken over my life. Starting as a child, man, I was a scared kid. And I know I've talked about this before in different podcasts and conversations, but I was scared. And I don't know if that started from the way that it develops from somewhere. In fact, most people experience much more anxiety when they step into their 20s, 30s as adults, right? Where we come to states of more financial worries. But as a kid, your parents are taking care of you, right? So there is often less. anxiety. Although we are seeing more and more anxiety in our children right now for probably all sorts of reasons. We can go into that later. As a kid, for me, I was really scared that I was going to be taken in the middle of the night. I think that there had been some like murder something in like Chicago, and I was in Colorado, but my family was scared of that, and there were like moments where my mom would wedge chairs underneath the door for like an extra support of security. So as a child, I was watching this, right? I was seeing, and whatever I was perceiving, that what I was witnessing, I was perceiving that as a we're not safe. We need to make sure that we're really protecting ourselves. Something within that time period triggered that for me. And then what happened was for the next, I don't know, it feels like maybe decade for me, I went into a state of like every single night when I would go to bed, I would make sure that I would lock every single door, even though my parents lock the doors. This is as a, I mean, I don't know, 6 year old, 7 year old, 5 year old. I'm like going to go, I'm going to make sure I lock every door. I would check every single window in the house, lock every window. Then I would go to bed and I would lay there so scared that someone was going to take me in the middle of the night. I started sleeping underneath my bed so that I could like find myself protection. So like I would like go to bed in my bed, but then I would like go underneath my bed. I would try to go in my parents' room all the time. Sometimes I could sleep on the floor there, but it wasn't like they didn't want to create that habit within me. So they would say no often. And I just remember how hard that was. And like the second it was daylight, I was like, thank goodness. And I would go about my day in a good way. I don't feel like I was like super worried about school or classes, not in an abnormal way. I found sports that I enjoyed, but the second it got close to nighttime again, I was like back in that same state. And that went on for a long time, for 10 years. And now I think back to some of the different things that I was going to the doctor for, and I can make connections of how the worry could have been the root result for those things. Like my consistent headaches. They were trying to think of like, why is she having headaches as a 10-year-old? These should not be so persistent. But when you're in a constant state of worry, that can undoubtedly be a way that it shows up. So I was a great worrier as a kid. When I was a senior in high school, my boyfriend at the time gave me, I think my Christmas present was the books, like it was a book about not worrying. Why worry less. Oh my gosh, how can I not remember this right now? But can you imagine being a senior in high school and this person that's in your life, they're like, you know what she needs? A book about worrying. So obviously I was still worrying then. I don't even remember that. That doesn't even seem nearly like that didn't even make the charts compared to the worry that I felt when I was little. But other people could see the worry within me, and they were trying to provide me with support to work my way out of that. And then I married my husband, John Carroll. And I swear to you, God brought him into my life as a rock of just solid presence, and his ability to not worry about basically anything. I mean, he is incredible about pushing out worry and really doing a lot of the things that we're going to talk about over this next month in order to control that emotion and not allow that emotion to control him. And he just taught me by being, by living, by doing. And when I would start to get into a state of worry, he would check me. He would give me different perspective. He would support me in finding regulation, in realizing that I was just making stuff up. And that was such a blessing. When we filed bankruptcy in 2008, 2009, whatever that time period, I did find myself back into that worry state. The financial anxiety, like I said, which is one of the top ones, that was a real deal for me. Not having money in the bank, not knowing when the banks were going to come and take our houses, losing multiple houses. We would have garage sales every other weekend trying to clear stuff because we didn't know when or where we were going to move. And I got really sick for about a year. Now, when I look at like what really sick is after having a chemo baby and all the things, it wasn't really sick, but I was sick. I did not feel good. I had stomach problems. I was getting, tube shoved down my throat, tube shoved the other direction. They're trying to figure out what's wrong with my stomach, what's wrong with my being, why I'm consistently sick. I was scared. I was worried. I was worried then. I was living in a state of continuous anxiety, which was affecting my body. And what is amazing is after decades and then like this full year of being in this state of worry and then slowly teaching myself and listening to others and receiving guidance on how not to worry and to live in a different state. When we went to the hospital for my little one when he was 20 months old, and we discovered the tumor, of course that's fear, right? That's a response to not just a perceived threat, that's a real threat. But I was able to maintain my calm during that storm better than I had ever. And yes, did I have different anxiety like times show up in my life? And that was my opportunity to dive into some of the things we're going to talk about: how to handle anxiety, how to level that, how to cope with it, and how to rid of it. And we'll go into those later conversations. But I just wanted to share with you, first of all, I have gone through a lot of worry. I have experienced a lot of trauma. I honestly don't know if I've ever seen a child, in my personal experience, as scared as I was for that decade. And I kind of forgot about it. I was doing a program and I went back to it and somehow like reopened all of those things. And I was like, holy shoot, darn. I have a live video of it somewhere. I should find it, where I just shared about this and just lost it, just sharing of what that experience was like. It was challenging for me. And I was worried about somebody who was, it's 3,000 miles away, and put me into the state of 10 years of this consistent fear of sleeping. I think it still is there sometimes. Like sometimes when I go to bed, like, and I don't connect those two, but I will have a hard time falling asleep. And I have to really make sure that I'm not still connecting to that. Anyways, this is how we're going to close out today. I want to talk to you about what worry can do to your body, what worry links to within your system, so that you have even more reasoning to follow along this and work on ridding worry of your life, seeing how worry is one of the most prominent things that is currently affecting your health. You say you want to get healthier, so you're going to start running. Awesome. But if you're not going to stop worrying, where are you really going to be at? You say you want to get more healthy, so you're going to start eating more protein. Good job. Eat more protein. But if you're not going to get rid of the worry, how is that showing up in your life? You say you want to get healthier, so you're going to stop drinking. That's great. Good decision. Also, if you're not ridding the worry from your body, where are you going to be at the end of the day? So, worry links to, get a load of this list. Okay. So, the effects that worry has on your body, what it does is going to release different hormones. It provides different responses. And those things can cause all of this to happen within your body. You can develop high blood pressure. Also, think about some things that you might have or you might have experienced. Okay. High blood pressure, heart disease, asthma, lung disease, migraines, headaches, me as a child, consistent headaches, worry being at the root of it. And I'm not saying that there's not other things that go on, but worry is at the root. And we're going to talk about, especially with our book club this month, how to stop worrying and start living. Multiple, like so many stories of people when they rid themselves of worry, how these things disappear. Heart attacks, strokes, increased blood sugar. Your blood sugar, there's a surge of blood sugar when you worry, and that over a long time is damaging. It can promote kidney disease, a low immune system. The more worried you are you sick all the time? Do you find yourself getting flu, cold, viruses, right? Increased cases of shingles, anything that's a virus, because your body isn't able to ward it off as well as it should be. Ulcers, acid reflux, bowel problems. Like for me, that whole problem during that year is like I felt like they thought it was diverticulitis or colitis or IBS. But at the end of the day, tested everything. It wasn't. It was that was creating that feeling from the worry. So a bunch of bowel problems. It can even decrease your chances of having kids. So for males, it will have a low sperm count. So unhealthy sperm at some level. For menopausal women, it affects your sleep and your hot flashes even more. So when you take this list of things, from blood disease, lung disease, kidney disease, your bowels aching, your head, your tension, all of the different things, the ways that it can show up in your life is absolutely insane. Yet we allow it to continue to control our lives. We let it in and day out, and we can control it. We absolutely can. And maybe right now you're listening, you're like, well, I don't know how. I get it, man. I didn't know how either as a child. I didn't know how either, during that bankruptcy time of our lives. But I'm open to learning about it and receiving possible tools and tactics to help minimize it, to step into a different way of being. And it is a brain train, meaning You can't just say, I'm not going to worry from here on out. And just like Cal said, that all those diseases could happen today on that podcast. So I'm not going to worry anymore. That's not the way that it works. I wish it was, but instead it's going to take some retraining of your neural synapses. And this is the most beautiful thing. One of those most beautiful discoveries in the last couple of decades is that our brains don't stop developing when we're teenagers like they used to think. Our brains continue to grow and develop, and we can retrain our brains, our synapses, the way that our body naturally reacts to things. We can retrain that, including in the worry category. So if right now you naturally just something, you hear something and all of a sudden you're like, what if that happens to me? The worry just settles in. You can retrain that. You can find strength. So over the next, like I said, couple weeks, whatever it ends up being, we're going to talk more about these tactics about worry. But today's just validation that I'm really good at it. And maybe some support and validation as to why you might want to work into it, work in it, work on it, work away from it so that you can find a healthier new you in the future. We are, if you want to join us on book club while you're listening to these next few episodes, we're reading How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. And this is kind of cool because we've been reading some other books that are much more new, like new age, and this is older. So I like to dive into some of his languaging and how things were that it's fun. So if you want to grab that, grab it, join us, and we will talk more about worry in the future. For now, just take inventory on where you're at and your health to see if this is something maybe you want to not only address yourself, but share with some other humans about. Maybe you have some other humans in your life that you're like, hey, you know what? They might need to listen to this. They might need some support just like me. Okay, you guys, I love you so much. Don't forget, perspective reveals miracles, and we will talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks for joining, and don't forget to subscribe and, of course, share with your friends. Guys, that's how we impact more lives. All right, see you next time.